Hey, it's the Monkey Nut Punch podcast. I've got Keith, who I've already started arguing with before we start the broadcast. We should be fun and games. We'll be talking about Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker's finale on Doctor Who. And The Devil's Hour, starring Peter Capaldi. I was going to describe this as we're going to talk about one really good TV show starring a beloved Doctor Who actor with lots of timey-wimey stuff in it, and then a crap show. But I fucked that out completely because I meant to say, and then Doctor Who. But hey, so, Keith, how you doing?
I'm fine, buddy. I'm fine. I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I've had lots of good TV this week. Lots of good TV this week.
Yeah,
I am actually. Andor was good, but
I'm waiting until next week. So watch 3.
Genuinely. Oh, by the way, just want to say, Keith is now a Star Wars name because Andor's persona in this third arc, he's called Keith. So Keith now exists in the Star Wars universe. My dreams have come fucking true. Keith is no longer. He's now a Star Wars name. So I should just be Keith. When somebody goes, "What's your Star Wars name?" Keith.
Not Keith Han Solo.
No, just Keith. But genuinely, I was blown away by the Tales of the Jedi. Fuck, they were actually surprisingly fucking good.
I didn't watch them. I didn't even know about them.
6 little stories, like they're shorts, 15 minutes, 10 minutes. So you get basically the first one is Ahsoka Tano being born, and her mum realizing she's a Jedi, which was beautifully done, beautiful episode. And then you have 3 episodes, all in different parts of the timeline, but basically the evolution of Count Dooku. Again, brilliant. And then Ahsoka training with Anakin, because you then realize that the training sessions that she takes through is how she gets out, gets away from Order 66. Great. But you have to have seen Clone Wars season 7 to really get the power. Then the final episode is she's on the run, and she's an Inquisitor comes after her, and she just fucking pwns this fucking Inquisitor. But it's done in a real, it's not like whamming, surprise whamming. It was just genuinely, she just fucking pwned him.
You mean tactics and strategy?
Oh yeah, you saw it in her head, and he was an idiot, and she just fucking wiped the floor with him, and it was genuinely like, way, just amazing short videos, but the music, the production, the animation, it was just fucking well done. It was like Rebels, that those first few seasons of Rebels. It was genuinely fucking awesome. So really good Star Wars, which again is quite a surprise at the moment. But those, Filoni on his own, but Filoni at his best.
We'll talk about the Peripheral after Doctor Who and.
I've watched that as well. Oh, I've only seen the first 2.
I watched 2.
Yeah, same with you.
Okay.
So,
right, Doctor Who. I tried to find someone who had a reasonably good opinion on it, and there's a guy called Harbo's Doctor or something. And he was the only person I could find that had a reasonable thing. He described it as an episode, pretty fucking bad. But as a collection of little things going together, like nice little incidents, it was good. And I'm like, I can get behind that. I can understand that. That makes sense. So starts off, and you've got the train chase thing with the Cybermen, and then there's a timeless child fake out, which I was a little annoyed at. And so I did that. And then Dan just fucks off, which is just like, Dan just went, you know what? I fucking don't like this. This is a crap TV show. I could be doing The Chase or something. And then just buggers off. So I actually just, and then it was like kind of, okay, bye Dan. Says the doctor's like, oh, fuck off then. I don't care. Even previously when he let go of companions, it was always a bit, there was something behind it. There was some kind of emotion. You sure you want to go? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So that I found that funny. And then Yaz's thing that she did with Dan, where she's like, kind of, I'll call you, I'll ignore the call, I'll text you, I'll ghost you. Instead of just turn around and just, all she had to do As he was leaving, turns around, goes, "Miss you, Dan." That was it. You could have the banter and then just have the truth. "Miss you, Dan." All we had to do, one fucking line would repair that. But no, that's how Doctor Who treats its companions, and it's crap. Well, under Chibnall, it's crap. Yeah, not very good at all. So Dan fucks off. It's just the Yaz and the Doctor in the TARDIS, and then you cut to Shasha Jawan as the Master, who, I'll be honest with you, I really like. It's the only thing in Doctor Who recently that I've gone, you know what? I would describe him as the master on cocaine, a lot of cocaine, but it makes more sense, especially when in The Timeless Children where he bursts out and he's like,
yeah. I mean, he's playing that. He was a return to the sort of first Master, or the second Master technically, that we saw on screen, you know, in Russell T Davis's era, and he was a bit more of that insanity crazy Master. For me, I will always love Missy. She fucking owned that character.
yes.
And she played it immensely well. But this guy was really good. It almost makes you wish that he could have been a Doctor. You look at him and go, he could have played the Doctor.
The funny thing is if you look at not Russell T Davis, Chris Chibnall's writing in the last from like
It's terrible.
I think it was one. It's terrible, but the other thing too, he seems to sideline the Doctor loads. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, and he did in this episode again. It was shit. I mean, don't get me wrong, it didn't make sense. There was no real story. This sort of forced regeneration was just stupid. I loved seeing the older Doctors. You know, Sylvester McCoy was great. Paul McGann back again. Why the fuck do they not get him back on screen? Because he is a compelling Doctor.
Even if it's just for a few episodes to cover while we're waiting.
Yeah. Even Colin Baker again, you know, seeing Colin Baker, even though he really didn't look, you know, it kind of was quite clever how they explained they all looking old. Loved seeing the first Doctor again. But they didn't write off The Timeless Children. The universe is dead because they haven't fixed the flood. It's almost like, episode of the week, we're just going to ignore that, like a cartoon. Oh, it's Looney Tunes. It's just reset, you know.
Yeah, there's that aspect to it, but let's get back
next thing you're going to see this Roadrunner coming going meep meep, because it was kind of that reset.
Yeah, but going back to it, because you starts off, you see Sacha Dhawan as the Master, as Rasputin, and I'll be honest with you, makes good Rasputin. He could play Rasputin in something. I'd look at him. I'd take him as a Rasputin. I did appreciate him, and the fact that they replaced him as the Doctor, and I'm like, dude, I could watch a whole series of him pretending to be the Doctor in the funky clothes that he's got. That would have been it. If it was just him going and fucking things up, and you see how he fucked things up, yeah, that would be really good to watch as a TV show. And it's weird because when I first saw him, I wasn't too keen on him, and then the more crazier he got and the more scene chewing he got, the more I actually I quite like this guy. But you had that, and then for some reason you had that with the cyber conversion Death Star planet in the past, and then in the present you then had the volcano thing. And it's like, why did you do that, Chris? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Put it all in 1912 and have done with it. Yeah, just have done with it.
It was trying to do too much. I mean, you know, they were trying to sort of hark back to Billy Piper's final episode in Canary Wharf. There were elements of that in there with the Daleks. We had the Cybermen.
The only original element on it was the thing that she was using to communicate with them with the AI. No, actually, that wasn't the original, because that was in Part In of the Ways, and it was in Blink. It's been in loads of things, actually. That's a lie. No, she's had that interface for a while.
The Cybermen was just a rehash of the Dalek thing in Billy Piper's final episode, and that's what it felt like. It just, he can't write, and you know, all these things. Joe Martin comes back as the Doctor, but they don't explain where she fits in, and they haven't done, and we're never going to get that because, you know, Russell T Davis is. The BBC have probably told him you can't reset the Timeless Children, but, you know, we're just going to forget it, like we forgot Reflux. we didn't reset time as children, but we didn't exactly mention it in this. You know, we showed the first Doctor, so we're not going to admit that we're wrong because we hate you fans, but to make money, we can't. We're just going to ignore it, and that's what they've chosen to do. And I'm sorry, like you can't do that. You can't do that with a 60-year-old series, and that you're summing up at the beginning of great moments. There were some great moments. I'm sorry, I can't stand Tegan. The accent just grates me. I never liked Tegan. The accent, sorry Australia, but her accent just grated me, and it's her accent, not the Australian accent. It was her accent that just grates me. Seeing Ace again, yeah, Ace was, but it was member berries. It was nothing more than member berries.
Yeah. Everyone said it was quite funny because you had the bit where she was in the volcano with the 7th Doctor, and he had a moment where he turned around his head. You know, it's not the fact that I leave here; it's just the fact that it gets you see you fly, and you're like, that's a Doctor Who moment. Why was that not?
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
So that's mad. So having all those.
Peter Davison got that moment with Tegan as well, even though I don't like her, and.
Kate Stewart wasn't a character in it.
No.
She had nothing to do in it. There's only the fact that she was pre-established. I love the fact that he got rid of Unit in the Doctor. I remember that Dalek episode where he phones up and Unit's gone. And then we got Unit back. And I'm like...
But it is Roadrunner. He just forgets what he's done in the past. And we just forget. Everything resets. It's a cartoon. It is a cartoon fucking world. You know, what's the Coyote up to this week?
I would like to see Unit run by Ace.
Yeah, I'd like them to bring back Ace again. Ace was kind of cool. Taking on a Dalek with a fucking baseball bat. Good on you.
No, that's no ordinary baseball bat, Keith.
Yeah, I know.
That's the baseball bat from Remembrance of the Daleks, which has been modified by the hands of Omega. That's how nerdy I am. That's my nerd cred.
I know. I remember it coming up before, but it was kind of cool. The Doctor cameos were great. I will say this now, and I will call it now. I do not believe Peter Capaldi. He is coming back. I do not believe Peter Capaldi. For a man who loves Doctor Who as much as he does, right? He's coming back for the 60th, and so is Matt Smith. They are saving these guys for the fucking, you know, this was the B party. This was the B team, the ending of this. Now we're getting the fucking A team. In a year's time, we're getting the A team. We're getting Tennant back, and they are so fucking putting Capaldi in there. And I know he's coming back. It's bullshit. It's a lie. But I totally believe that Capaldi is coming back, and it'd be great to see it alongside Tennant. That would be really good.
They had to refilm the regeneration scene.
Yes, I know.
So they filmed it again because originally she regenerated in Toby Stevens. So she regenerated in Toby Stevens, then they changed their mind. So then they regenerated into David Tennant.
Why Toby Stevens?
Because Toby Stevens has a contract with Sony, which I think comes with Lost in Space and a load of other things that he's done. So he has a contract with Sony, and Sony have gone, we want you to pick one of our actors, and he's Ginger. Because that was going to be his first thing he did, was go, oh my God, I'm Ginger.
Toby Stevens would have been, because they did say they had somebody else in mind, didn't they? And then
they changed it.
Nutty, what's his face, came in and kind of blew them away. I have to say, that 5 seconds that he is in that fucking trailer, what is going on here in his sort of Nigerian night? I'm sold. But I like the
guy. I don't know, because he's got a transgender assistant, and it's like as soon as I heard that, I went, oh great, we thought we got rid of a gender. It's not. I know one thing: when this is all over, you're going to turn around and say the following: Stephen Moffat was the best fucking Doctor Who writer, full stop, for the new Who. When this is all said and done,
you'll
have Russell T Davies will undo all your goodwill.
Stephen Moffat's, the best episodes that Stephen Moffat wrote were under Russell T Davies as the showrunner. Right? I will say this now. My favorite episodes of Doctor Who in that era were written by Moffat, but they were under David Tennant. Not under. They were under T. Davis as the showrunner. I haven't thought a lot of Stephen Moffat's writings in the last thing. I can kind of see. I watched a couple of episodes of the Time Traveler's Wife. Couldn't really get into it. I did not like the thing with David Tennant as the vicar. I'm sorry, I didn't like it. I thought it just annoyed me.
What annoyed me was the fact that I thought that they were going to do an Inside Number 9 and have the kid kill her off because she thought he was a paedophile, and that was going to be the end. And that's how they should have ended it. And I would have loved everyone.
It didn't work for me. The only thing I liked was Stanley Tucci. You know, if they brought him back, it might be more compelling. But she was a bell end, and so was David Tennant. I know. There's a kind of loose explanation there, but I just it didn't ring right for me. But you could be right. But again, the member Berry at the end when he turns in and goes like that, and he goes, "I know these teeth." What? Okay, I got the feels there. I did get the feels. Seeing Tennant back, going, "What? I did get the feels, but that's what it was designed to do. So, you know, I think the 3 episodes that we're going to get for the 60th, people are going to love. I think it's genuinely going to be good. I don't know if this Rose transgender character is cast throughout the whole of his season. She is only cast for these 3 episodes, along with what's his face as the toy maker. He's called
the Celestial Toy Maker.
Yes, yeah. But I think it's bullshit that we're only going to see Tennant. I'm calling this now that I think Capaldi's telling fibs. And good on him for telling fibs, because it'd be a nice surprise when he turns up. But I think he is going to turn up.
I think the only reason he would turn up is because it's being run by Russell T Davis's thingy. If it's still done by the BBC, I think he would have told him to fuck off.
No, I agree with you.
But I think that's the only reason. If he does come back, then it'll be.
But you see,
because it's not BBC to run.
My favourite regeneration, probably. I hate to say this because I don't like who he regenerated into, but I like Capaldi's regeneration. Because I love that speech. That speech is a hopeful speech. That speech he delivers at the end is great.
That speech that he delivers at the end is Stephen Moffat's notes to Chris Chibnall.
Oh, I know.
Try to be nice, but always be kind. So it was like kind of, yeah. Sorry, Bill has put a ton of comments in there. I need to just quickly go through them. So we got, he thinks it's too little too late. A lot of people have moved on. All the normies have moved on from Doctor Who. And then we've got, imagine being in a coma. 2006, mate. It was Christopher Eccles in 2005. Nerd of me kicking in there. The damage. Yeah, the damage is done. But the thing with Doctor Who is it does regenerate. But it does change. So
there is 3 compelling things of hope this week. If you go look over at the Doctor Who Twitter account, they have basically redesigned the original logo, which is kind of cool, right? Nutty, what's his face? I'm sorry, I can't.
Ncuti Gatwa.
Ncuti Gatwa. Ncuti Gatwa did this amazing sort of 5-minute thing of how he'd like to see what he'd like to do in as a Doctor. But the very interesting thing was that it was the 2000. It was from the David Tennant version of Murray Gold's theme playing in the background. I went, oh, that's Murray Gold's music. And I was just like, oh. So like, I think Murray Gold is back. Maybe only for the 60th, but Murray Gold is back. That was done on purpose. They played Murray Gold's last theme from Russell T Davis's era, and that was done on purpose. I would say cautiously optimistic for the 3 specials next year. And as I said, I think we're going to get Capaldi. I will be shocked, but not 100% surprised if Chris Eccleston is in it. I don't think he will be.
No.
But I wouldn't be 100% shocked. if he was.
Yeah, you have to remember that Christopher Eccleston was screwed over by Russell T Davies.
Yes, I know, but until like a few years ago, he was very anti it. But in the last few years, he's given several interviews where he's admitted some wrongdoing himself. He's come back to Doctor Who in doing the Big Finish things. He's done more conventions, and he's kind of, I think he's sort of changed his mind a bit about the legacy he has, and he's come back to being involved in Doctor Who far more. Whereas he refused to do conventions, refused to do anything. He's doing a lot more Doctor Who stuff now. So would he come back? I don't think he will, but it would be lovely if he did.
Yeah, sorry. I have to unplug something because it's moaning at me.
But I think we even might see her back. That's the problem. I think we might even see her in the 60th. I think we might even see her in the 60th. That's the one thing I'm going, oh God, no.
You think is he Billy Piper in the 60th? Yeah.
Not Billy Piper. Bloody what's her face? I think Billy Piper.
Can't say her. You have to tell me who.
The Doctor. What's her face? Bloody Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. Back
Whittaker.
again. The only funny thing was, though, and this is a personal thing, he's not in the comments because he's on a plane right now flying across the Atlantic Ocean. But the very next day, Chuck visited Dusseldorf, which is where she regenerated. And I sent him that morning, like, Chuck, this was meant to be. Look where the Doctor regenerated last night. And he was just like, boom. And Chuck was there when I sent him that video. He was standing in front of the damn thing. And coincidentally, BBC are in trouble for that, because what I didn't realize was that's called Dusseldorf and it's on a private estate. And apparently the BBC didn't give them the full details of what they were doing. And by sticking the TARDIS out on there, the estate have got the ump because they think people are going to climb out there to try and recreate it. And had they known, they would have refused permission to film there. So, and
if they signed it first, then it's their fucking problem for not bringing that up at the beginning.
I just have to say, I totally agree with you here. It's my favorite episode, hands down, and it's a Dr. Light episode.
It's like
still love it.
He likes the adipose one. Bilford likes the adipose one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
it's a good episode.
Meets the Jodie Who.
I like the adipose episode because it's when they bring Donna back, and that bit with Donna in the lift
where they're talking through the window.
Genius.
What are you doing here?
I mean, Donna is my favorite companion, and I rewatched as a kind of antidote to that episode and to sort of refamiliarize myself. I watched the third episode, the Ood episode. Fucking great episode that. And it was Tennant and her their best. Love that episode. Music was brilliant. Murray Golden nailed the music in that. Great episode. One of Russell T Davis's best, because he wrote that episode. So I don't know. I think I'm cautiously optimistic for these three episodes. I like Ncuti Gatwa. I do. I think he could be a good Doctor. I think it's going to be interesting. You might be right.
Amazing about Ncuti Gatwa.
Go on.
Okay.
He is gay.
He's not gay.
Really?
Have you seen pictures with him and his girlfriend? He's tying his girlfriend.
I'm Ncuti Gatwa's gay. You've got to be winding me up.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, fucking stupid name. No idea.
It's not. It's just African. Here we go. Ncuti, right? That's why I called him Nutty, because when you see it written, it's spelled N-U-N-C-U-T-I or whatever it is. So that's why I called him Nutty.
Right. So his girlfriend for the last 3 years is Jessica Hardwick, who's a photographer in London. Could you imagine? He's only pretending to be gay to get parts. That makes him brilliant. That really does.
Holy shit!
bringing you all the news.
Nah, this is bullshit. He's gay. I'm sure of it.
Or does he just play gay characters?
Newty Gatwa does Newty Gat. Who is he dating? Nah, he's got to be gay. Oh well, I don't care. It's his, but no. See, there's a picture of him and a boyfriend here. Well, maybe he's the B in ABC, as my wife calls it.
Well, it's what do you call it? Maybe he was, and he was. Maybe I think he's fucking pretending so he can get parts. I think he's a fucking.
I like
he
the
might
guy.
be a fucking genius for all we know.
What behind closed doors? He's like, "Hello, Dave."
Oh, he might. He might. He boss. His Scottish accent. All right, my love, get the kettle on and suck my dick.
The trailer was not enough, and it was perfect in many ways.
It was just 3 frames practically.
I know.
One of the Doctor, one of Neil Patrick Harris, and one of Shooting Out one.
Yeah,
that was it. 3 frames.
Well, we've got a whole fucking year to speculate about this because it's
the thing that gets me. They should have got the guy that he's in sex education with to be his companion. They missed a trick there. That would have worked because those two have screen chemistry. Not
well, they haven't really announced he's a companion yet. We know that this Rose transsexual character is in it, playing a character called Rose, but she's in the 3 episodes of the 60th.
Hang on a second.
She's been seen filming.
It's not Jessica Henwick. It's a photographer called Jessica Hardwick. I know where you got that.
I know exactly who Jessica Henwick is.
Yes.
Yes.
What? We know Jessica
I didn't say anything. I implied it with my eyes.
But I think there's some excitement. I'll give it a go. I am worried though. I'm really worried because Russell T Davies is not the person that he was when he first started up Doctor Who.
We are living. You're right. We're living in a world now where anybody's favorite IP is getting made. You kind of treat it with absolute caution, because every fucking studio is fucking it up. Although, if it's by all accounts, Amazon know how much they've fucked up, and all this stuff is just damage control. And the great thing is that the second season is going to fail.
Well, this is the thing: is that Jeff Bezos' son is probably giving him shit. His son is probably going, Dad, that was crap. How much did you spend on that game?
The rumor is that the showrunners are being sidelined. I think if Amazon know that it's too little, too late. You've done it. You've destroyed it. The only way to come back from this is to go, right, we fucked up. We're going to make a different series in a different era with different characters. That's the only way you can resurrect what you've done. You want Lord of the Rings to carry on. You've got the IP. You own the rights. There is nothing stopping you going, right, we're going to do a different season. We'll call this The Birth of Mordor, and we'll just put it to the back burners, right? And now we're going to come up with a completely different set of characters. We'll recast characters because they're slightly older. You get rid of Morphy, whatever her thing is, because she's just god-awful. Conflicted. You've got to drop that. You've got to do a completely new season in a completely different period. Then, and keep it Tolkien. Then you might get forgiven. It's the only way. But they're not going to do that because, they're not. But they're going to learn.
They're not going to learn. Okay. Let's quickly talk Peripheral, and then we'll go on to the Devil's Hour. So I watched the first 2 episodes of The Peripheral. It's based on a book. I might read the book if I've got time.
Based on the first of a trilogy of books.
Yeah, it's funny. I found it quite funny because Call Me Chatto reviewed it in terms of because I don't like the writer, and I'm like, wow, oh my god, I haven't heard criticism like that from something. It's like I'm not too keen on the material because I've read the material and it's crap. Which is like, wow,
yeah.
That's fine. I haven't heard criticism like that since like the mid 2000s. That's how we used to do criticism. Yeah, is like, I'm not too sure. That was my criticism when Chibnall took over Doctor Who. That I think he's a crap writer. I was proved correct. So thumbs up for me. So yeah, it's It's interesting. I'm hoping that it feels like how can I put it? I think they're all in a simulation, and they're just hacking servers. They're not traveling through time.
I think that we're seeing time travel, but we're not just seeing time travel. I think there are parallel universes at play here.
Oh no,
as
they're
well.
described as parallel universe, but part of me is like kind of. It's when you see London and you see those giant statues in London, they have weird mosquito block likes, like it hasn't finished rendering, which makes me feel like it's a computer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When you see that, you look at those giant statues and it looks like they haven't rendered in properly. You know, when you watch something and you get those big blocks because the image isn't quite right.
I don't quite know what's going on yet. It's not shit. It's not like the most brilliant thing. The annoying thing is, right, I'm kind of interested in this. There are a couple more things coming to Amazon before the end of the year, and I don't want to renew my bloody Prime account, but I might have to.
Remember, it's not just
I kind of want to not renew my Prime account in protest to Amazon for calling me, you know, patently evil because I dared to hate their fucking shit version of Lord of the Rings. But I don't dislike this. I find it quite interesting. So I kind of like Chloe Mortinez, and she's quite good in this. I find, you know, what's going on with the brother interesting. It's definitely a parallel universe that she is in, because things are not quite right. Like there's just things there that are not quite right. Of course, the cybernetics in a brother for starters. And this is only 2032. So there are a few things going on there. I'm kind of enjoying it. Yes, there's that as well. But again, I don't want to renew my Amazon Prime thing. This is a point of principle. So, but the thing is, it's becoming to a point where I have to download everything, and it's getting annoying. I had to take my laptop up because I can't watch it on my iPad. Whereas when I had Amazon Prime, obviously it was just easy. But I'm still holding out at the moment. I'm still holding out, but I have to admit that the next season of Jack Ryan looks kind of good. So, and there's a few other things, as I say, coming to Amazon before the end of the
Jack
year.
Reacher. Oh no, Jack Ryan. Yeah, you're right.
No, Jack Ryan. Reacher. Fuck me. When that comes back, I'll probably will have to renew because that first season was phenomenal. So I don't know. I like the Peripheral. It's not like stand out amazing at the moment, but it's interesting. It's got.
It feels like the what was the one? What was the Terminal List? It's got the same slow build that Terminal List had, which means it might have a really fucking banging ending. But we have to wait, which is great. So I'm gonna see if I can find the book and go through the book.
This works as an episode of the week thing. My only criticism of Andor is it doesn't work as an episode a week thing. They should have released these 3 episodes in blocks. I totally agree with you on that. But I do kind of like Andor still. And what's his face? Andy Serkis turns up this week. So
I as I said, with Andor, I feel that it's going in waves of 3. So next week you'll get the big payoff for everything. So I'll watch all 3, and then the third one, watch all those 3, and then do it that way. It's competently written. I think the problem with Andor is the fact that it's sat behind a load of shit Star Wars, which people have lost interest in. Because I got a friend at work, and she's really into Star Wars. I asked her if she watched Andor, and she went, no. I'm like, because I think she's been put off. She won't say it, but I think she's been put off.
I think you should recommend it back to. I mean, Sol Guerrero was in this episode, and the sort of banter between him and Luthien character that was really good. And you see, the thing is, right, Sol Guerrero was a Dave Filoni character, therefore a Lucas character. But Lucas was involved in the creation of Sol Guerrero. Sol Guerrero came from the Clone Wars, so he was good in this. Again, he's only in it briefly, but that's not the end of him. I don't know. I've been enjoying it, but they should be releasing it in blocks of 3. They should be releasing it in blocks of 3. It is binge. It's designed to be binged. or binged in blocks of 3. It's almost like there's 4 movies going on here in 3 episode arcs. So
yeah, that's what it feels like to me.
I agree.
So maybe it was designed as a mini series. So it was designed as to be a mini series rather than what it is, which would make sense.
I think you're going to enjoy this block of episodes. Like the first one's a bit slow, but this one was. The problem with it is that this particular episode, you need the next episode for it to pay off, and it's difficult to wait a week because of the nature of this episode. But again,
I'm feeling completely justified in my wait until 3 episodes have gone.
I'm
so
saying
justified.
I'm justifying I am justifying it for you. I'm saying I agree with you. I'm just a child and can't wait. So I watch the episodes. I'm freely going to admit that. But yeah, I'd go and watch the Jedi Tales because they were just damn good. And it really makes you see Count Dooku in a different light. Really good. And it also gives you what happened to that Yodel. What's her face? They're not called Yodel, but it gives you what happened, her fate as well.
Lady Yoda.
Yeah, Lady Yoda. It gives her fate as well. I'm going to tell you. You remember that scene?
Sorry, I meant to say she Yoda.
Yeah. You remember that? You remember the scene that you first sold me on Rebels?
Oh, that one, yeah.
And how brutal that was. This is way worse. This is way fucking worse. Yeah, these episodes are not kiddie episodes by any fucking stretch of the imagination. Anyway, come on, let's get on to the main subject, and
the one that we were arguing about before we started.
Yeah, the one we were starting. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm trying to put some space so we could calm the fuck down before we talk.
I know. I will say this: I found the first episode until the end really hard to get into. I was kind of getting, oh god, this is going to be shit vibes. Then it suddenly started getting interesting, and then I was compelled all the way up. So but I found that first episode, that first 45 minutes of that episode were a bit kind of like
go back and watch it now, knowing what you know now.
Oh yeah, I think it'll probably make more sense now.
Yeah,
but it was difficult to get into to start with.
Let's just try to describe the series to people. This is the story of a woman called Lucy who has been diverted in the timeline, shall we say, by a time traveler called Gideon, who's played by Peter Capaldi. His character is a very Hannibal Lecter-esque character, as he sits mostly on the sidelines. When he's there, he chews up the scenes, which is fantastic. You're always paying attention to him. You always want to know what happens to him next. He's kept a mystery until the last 2 episodes, and it's very timey-wimey. It's very, and I don't mean the film The Butterfly Effect. I mean the actual term, The Butterfly Effect.
It had Butterfly Effect vibes, but
more like the actual butterfly effect, as in we're talking about changing small things and all the things that happen. So it's like it's ironic because one of the characters in it, the Scottish copper, was in the first 3 episodes of what do you call it? And Andor. He played pretty much the same character, the competent sidekick.
He was more of an arsehole.
No, he wasn't.
Wanting the oh yeah, he was. He wanted the violence in and he was more authoritarian in Andor. In this, without spoiling it, that final scene. Well, that final scene, you know, the bit where he's with his wife, and you know, you can the 2 of them were so believably married. Right.
Yes.
And that whole dialogue between them, and when she breaks down, you felt it, right? You felt that it was exquisitely written. It was exquisitely written, and that scene when they're in bed and you know what's going to happen. I'm grateful they didn't show it. But that scene when they're in bed to each other again, it was just totally believable. And totally normal.
See, I like the fact that because when you meet him, you get a few bits of dialogue with him, and then you get eventually into conversation, and he's chatting away to Ravi, and he's saying, "My wife never thought I'd make detective." Yeah, and he turns around because I can't spot the patterns and bits like that. But the difference between him and Ravi is Ravi can spot the patterns, but he knows all the people to talk to. If you need to get something done, he knows the person. He knows this person does that. That person does that. He can organize. He's not completely useless. And that's what made it great because Ravi relied on him for that. Yeah. And that made them work as a duo, as a team.
Oh,
I really enjoyed that.
beautiful.
And the bit where they're sitting in the car I think it's the 4th episode, they're sitting in the car and he loses his rag. And he says, we have to do something. Yeah. Because the first time he sees him, first time he sees the girl in this house that they're trying to help. Yeah. It upsets him. Yeah.
Yep.
It upsets both of them. They are like, something's wrong here. This is a crime. We are police officers. We do something about it. Yeah. So it's like, okay, fair enough. And then he he sees her being beaten up by a boyfriend. He goes, oh, fuck this. Yeah. Goes to the back of the car, picks up the crowbar, goes in there, and then takes them all on.
I was watching that last night, and I was sitting there, and my heart was beating fast. Right? Not only was it incredibly well filmed, it was so real. It was so realistic. It was so. I mean, look, if you don't like violence, this is very difficult to watch. But the funny thing was, you think he's done it right at the end when he's taken on the 2 guys and he's fucked them up, right? And you're cheering him on, and that fucking dude comes out with the machete. You think, oh shit, he's gonna die, right? And my heart's going like this. I can fucking feel it. I am there with him. I am in this fucking scene, right? And I remember feeling it. It's not often a TV series will make me feel like that did, right? And this is why I loved it. And the bit where, they finally fucking get him and stab him through the leg, and then they lay on the floor laughing, I had exactly the same reaction. And in that moment, I understood their reaction. That's why it worked.
They as a pairing, I thought were great. And you've got them both. They both worked together. And when he had to go back to the house because the bloke had broken in and stabbed him, and he goes, no, I need to do this. And he puts his music on because that calms him down and helps him focus. And he goes upstairs and he looks and he just turns around and goes, you know what? Fucking can't handle this. And just turns around and fucking balls his eyes out.
Yeah.
Again, it didn't come out of a vacuum. It was completely earned, and actors helped sell me on it. And I loved that. And then you've got,
I agree.
So Ravi and I can't remember his bloody name, Scottish fella from Thingy. That worked for me. That worked so fantastically. And then you had Lucy, her son Isaac, and her husband, who is Jamie Tart from fucking
I know.
from Ted Lasso. And that was because I was going Jamie Tart when I first saw him, and it's annoying because he loved her. He would,
okay,
but the kid did it in. He was so.
You mentioned something in our argument before we came on, and I will say this now that I've processed this. I had sympathy with him up until the abuse started. Then I lost sympathy for him, and I think you're meant to.
Yes.
So whilst I think she did treat him bad,
no, hang on a second. Right, we're just talking about the character on his own, yeah. Because just the character on his own, you're right. He had the relationship with this wonderful woman that he met. He spent all 2 years. They had the child, and then the child was just this weird soulless drone that didn't hate him, it didn't love him, wouldn't do anything. It was for him, and then because his wife is trying to fix him, he's not paying him any attention, and that kind of causes their relationship to break down. And then she's like using him. And yeah, you're right. You'd feel up until you get to that last episode, yeah, because the other one felt like an outburst. The one where he's looking after him, it felt like an outburst of frustration more than anything else. Just to try and see if I just yell at him, will he cry? Because he won't cry. Yeah, just won't do fucking anything.
I think the middle of the last episode is where I started losing sympathy for him a bit, because he was clearly lying to her, and he wasn't. The bit where he turned, I mean, when he slammed the spaghetti down, yeah, I kind of understood that, but after that, I lost quite a lot of sympathy. The thing is, I had sympathy because I remember, you know, my mum worked with kids like a bit like this, and used to tell me about different reactions from different members of the family, and she worked with people that couldn't feel anything like that. So I had sympathy for him until that point, and then I lost the sympathy for him. And you know, now that we're sort of verbally talking about this, I know we're going to have to talk about the ending. I genuinely did think this was brilliantly written.
Yeah,
I think my I don't know. You asked me what I wanted to see at the end of this show.
No, we'll go towards that. Wait till we get to the end. Save that for the ending, because let's concentrate on. We'll just do the characters and their kind of journey through, because you had him, and I think it was done well, because you understand what he did at the end. Didn't come out from a vacuum.
No,
you saw him.
And you saw it coming. You saw it coming. Yeah.
And even before he flipped to proper arsehole, he tells the story of how he met his mother. Turns around and goes, I was going out with this girlfriend. She was fucking beautiful, but she had no personality. And then over on the other side, there's this woman drinking Pinnacle, laughing her ass off. Yeah. The other girl went home. I went and talked to her. We spent 3 wonderful years together, and then you were born, and you don't react to anything. And then he lost it. And that's when you could see that this again hadn't come from a vacuum. The motivations and everything was so clearly kind of expressed. And I fucking love that. I absolutely love that, because he was an arsehole, but he wasn't an arsehole just for the sake of being an arsehole. Yeah.
I think he was always, to a degree, a bit of an arsehole.
No, because you might be thinking of Jamie Tart.
No, I'm not. He did have that slightly smarmy side to him all the way through.
Yeah, he did have a slightly smarmy thing, but
but your description of it didn't come out of a vacuum. No, it didn't come out of a vacuum, because I think there was a part of it there, but you did have some sympathy for him. But for me, that sympathy was the minute he poured the beer over him, that was it. That to me was. I found that difficult to watch. But your description of it coming out of it didn't come out of a vacuum, but I found that difficult to watch. That is partly, for me, it was difficult to watch because I have partly a personal connection to that thing, so that was difficult for me. But no, none of this came from a vacuum. That you are absolutely right in that. There was nothing that where I would do a Nigel and say, well, that's not believable. Everything was believable. Everything was believable.
Yeah, everything came from somewhere. So then we'll move on to Lucy. And she was fucking horrible to Jamie Tart.
Yeah, she was.
And that's probably where most of my sympathy from him came, was the fact that she was horrible. The thing is that also you could see her when she was with the son. She was trying her ass off to make him happy, to make him laugh. She was singing in the car, trying to get him excited for dinner and this, that, and the other. And all she really wanted to hear him say, and they did it at the end, was "I love you." Yeah, that's what she really wanted to hear from him. But nothing. She got nothing like that from him up until when we get to the end. But yeah, she was a good character, but she'd been derailed. Yeah, and there was reasons that she was seeing people being murdered and things happening, but it's only revealed towards the end, which I'd liked that layering. Yeah, she wouldn't have known about the guy killing the 2 people in the house. Yeah, unless. We'll get to the end in a moment, because I'm going to go back and rewatch it, and it'll all make sense in the rewatch. I bet you it'll be like
maybe I do have to go back and rewatch it
But okay, so let's do Peter Capaldi's character, and let's do Ravi's character quickly. because Ravi's character, as I said, it kind of fits in with the other copper. He's a guy. He's clearly got anxiety issues. He's quite bright, but the problem is he has trouble functioning, and he gets a bit obsessive compulsive. That's why he has his murder wall, where he's trying to figure out what's happened with certain things, and he's used that to help him to get a job. And you're like, he seems a bit. It sounds weird. He seems a bit pathetic at times, yeah. But it's how can I put it? It's like the cowardly lion in Thingy. It doesn't come out of a vacuum, because he goes to fight Gideon in the warehouse, knowing that he could get his ass kicked. Even Lucy's telling him he'll get his ass kicked, yeah. But he's like, you've killed, you're responsible for the death of my mate, and you've just shot someone I was trying to save. And he was, he was like, I'm gonna fight you. And he turns out, I haven't killed you yet, or before, sorry, which confused the crap out of him. And I'm just like, what's going on here? And then he goes into a fight, loses the fight, because Peter Capaldi's already had the fight with him, so he knows where the punches are coming from, which is an easy way of getting Peter Capaldi out of having a full-blown fist fight with someone, which I appreciate, because he's the older gentleman here. And also explains other things later on, because if you're a fist fight with someone who knows where your punches are all going to land, he can avoid them, or she can avoid them. But that was good. And then
Ravi's character, I at first, he is the sort of, you almost think, oh, here we go, he's the fish out of water detective who's, we've seen this in so many cop shows where he's been promoted because he's clever and he's not really very good at being a copper. I enjoyed that. The fact that he came around and redeemed himself. I kind of enjoyed that. And I actually ended up liking his character probably the most, along with the Scottish copper. As you said, the pairing between the two of them.
Yes.
And his whole motivation, and actually he just wanted to do the right thing. And as you see more of his character, you actually like him. He was likable, and had a good arc.
Didn't come from nowhere. You saw clearly his actions, and the fact that he was willing to cover up that his mate went into that place and beat him up with a crowbar. And you have that funny bit where they're saying the exact story together, at the point they've overlapped it and cut them out and swapped them out. And I'm like, that is a good bit of editing there, where they're literally just telling you the same bloody outcome, so they've rehearsed it. Unfortunately, it gets them suspended, doesn't it?
Yes. But even the bit when he's in there with his boss and he just goes, fuck you, that felt believable and real.
But I love the fact that his boss was understandable, that he was annoyed. His boss was like, kind of, do you want to slam the door on the way out? Because it's like, kind of, I know this is an emotional reaction. I know this is not you. And that's like, wow. Wow, what a response. I know this isn't you. I know that you're going through some shit. Yeah, because matey had died,
it was real. It was believable. It didn't come out of a vacuum, even though we don't know the boss character. It felt real. And Ravi actually sort of pinpoints, and I am going to have to go back and watch this again, because I don't think this is the end, right? And because Ravi didn't get an ending, not really. And I hope that isn't Ravi's ending. And even if we swap into an alternative, whatever it is, Gideon said it's realities. He's not going back in time. He is going back in time, but he's going back in time and into another parallel universe. So it's almost like, every time he makes a decision, it spins off into another reality. And that's kind of what he explains, and that he's learning as he's live, die, repeat, kind of thing. But
all right. Let's go to the ending.
Yeah.
You've been warned, spoilers, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, right. So the ending ends with Peter Capaldi, the Gideon character, getting caught. Now, he then explains to Lucy what's going on. And there's a reason that he's picked Lucy. because he always says, "Does this cell seem familiar to you?" And she's like, "Yeah." And it's like, "Is there something in the corner of your eye?" No, that's Doctor Who. Sorry, it's that's a perception thing joke. But he goes, "This feels familiar to you." Yeah, but you've never been here. And she goes, "Yes, I've never been here." I was like, "Okay," because I always get caught. I always wind up in this cell. I always talk to, and then he was going to say you, but he never gets around to saying you. And he turns around, and then he goes around and explains to him that he as a child had a father and a mother who loved each other initially, and then they kind of drifted apart. And then father decides to commit suicide with him and his brother in the car. And he goes through a couple of loops where this just keeps happening. And then one day he decides not to pick up like a pine cone in the forest, and decides to then pick up a knife and stab his father on a day that he kills him, saving his brother and himself. Gets onto a bus and disappears. And the reason he's disappeared is that because he understands how time works and he's seen all these things, he's able to avoid people. So it's like things like there's a fly tip, yeah, which isn't explained until later, that he'd been removing faulty appliances from people's houses and tipping them into this area so their houses wouldn't burn down and he'd save them. So there's like 20, 30 washing machines and tumble dryers and whatnot in this area where he's just been chucking these things to stop people from dying from them. So it's like he understands these time traveling. He's trying to do the good. He's like, it's like not chaotic evil. He's like organized good, but with evil leanings. Yeah, he doesn't care how he does it. He just needs to get the thing done to keep things. And then he explains he then explains to her that the timeline she's living isn't her regular timeline. You were never supposed to move into that house. You were never supposed to meet your husband. You were never supposed to have your kid. The reason your kid is weird is because in the other loops, he did not exist. Yeah. And you see part of these loops because in those loops, she gets married to Ravi. And she's best friends with Ravi's sister, who's a bit of a bitch. But I take it on the chin because everything's done so well. Yeah. So you see that. And then you see that she smokes. And then he then explains that keeps coming to this point, and then he's reached the conclusion, yeah, because he goes, all I have to do is I can slip my wrists with, a bit of glass, a broken mirror or something, and I'm back, yeah, and I'll just repeat the same timeline. I win either way. But I had to wait around 25 years so I could find out what I could change in your timeline. So if you watch the very beginning, it starts off with the mother blowing her brains out with a shotgun. Yeah, so she blows her brains out with a shotgun. Goes out to thingy, blows her brains out. Nothing's explained. Yeah, gets to the end of that episode, repeats the episode. She goes to blow brains out the shotgun. Click, 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 click. Shotgun's not working. Then she finds a button off her coat. She takes the button and then she goes to figure out that maybe I'll commit suicide another way. And the little girl comes down at 3:33. The reason she keeps working at 3:33 is that's when the gunshot would have woken her up. Yeah. So she runs down there. Yeah, and she finds that the mother, not the daughter, finds the button. Anyway, the poor woman then grows up, and because she didn't have that "why did my mother kill herself" thing, yeah, and had my mother needs someone to look after her, she went down the social worker route rather than the police officer route, because she's the police officer that keeps arresting him. She's the police officer that keeps catching him. The reason she's having flashbacks of all these crimes is because in the previous loop, she was a police officer. And these were the crimes that she was.
That was a great reveal. That was a very good twist. And perfectly.
And then the better thing about it was the fact that when she was in the last loop with Peter Capaldi, she starts coughing. So Peter Capaldi knows there's a fire going on somewhere. Yeah, so he goes like, "Oh, there's a fire going on somewhere. She needs to go back home because it's probably at her home." Yeah. So he then starts talking to her and he talks about how a child isn't part of the timeline, as we said before. And because he's not part of the timeline, he doesn't quite get things. He can affect the other timelines. Yeah. He can step through them. Yeah. And there's bits where he does there's some great creepy bits in this, which I really appreciate, where there's a man in the room. There's no fucking man in the room. There's a man. He's standing there. It's like, I can't see a man in the room, son. And it's like, okay, all right, fair enough. And if when you have kids, then they do that sort of thing. It's like kind of, all right, you can come sleep with us tonight. Yeah, that sort of thing. And then she does the thing where she says night night, and he goes night, and he goes night night and repeats what she says. Then she goes downstairs and she hears him going night night pumpkin. Where did that come from? Did he hear something? Was there someone else there? And then you find the neighbors around the corner are supposed to move into the house, and the reason that she's hearing banging and stuff, and she sees the neighbor in the attic at one point, is because those timelines are kind of crisscrossing over, because he's diverted her down this path because he needs her not to be the copper that catches him, so he can escape. Yeah, it's all set up so he can escape because he keeps getting caught in these bits, and you're all seeing one of his loops where he needs to do that one change in order for him to carry on. And it's great because he goes her into the one thing. She goes, "Oh, your son loves you." "Oh, really? Has he said it?"
But
then she gets the phone call and she checks the messages. She hears him say it, and guess what she does? She then rushes home and gets caught in that fire. You don't know she's died though.
Well, okay, it implies. Okay, yeah. Now here's the thing.
Because hang on a sec, because this is the weird thing. Is it? Hold on. I've almost finished. Hold your thoughts, and I'll let you run for the rest. Okay. So you get to the end, what looks like the end of her loop. Yeah, but you don't know if you see her in the next scene as she's a copper investigating a fire on her street. Yeah, you don't know if that's her in the next loop or her in the previous loop, and it's left needlessly ambiguous to turn around and say this version that he got escaped from maybe shouldn't have happened. And then it's like kind of and you've got these things, and then the kids disappeared. And yes, they've left stuff there so they can do another series, but they did enough to answer where the series would go. So if they did end it there, it would be okay. Now,
the thing that didn't add up is you described him as Hannibal Lecter, but I wouldn't describe him as that, because his ultimate motivation is always to do good. He killed his father because his father was an arsehole, right? And his father would have harmed his brother, and he loved his brother, so he saved his brother, right? Then the next time we see what's going on, it's the little kind of Girl Scout with the balloon, and he saves her, right? Yes, okay.
Evelyn, who we haven't seen or come across yet.
And he goes back and helps her deal with the fact that she's not meant to be living. So there's a kind of butterfly effect thing going on with that. He doesn't. Lucy keeps stopping him, but Lucy is not a bad person, right? And he doesn't kill bad people. He tries to avoid it at all costs. He threatens to do it if it prevents him from saving good people. But as a rule for himself, it heavily implies he doesn't kill bad people. So the fact that Lucy sort of ends up in this burning house at the end, which her son let off, and you don't see what really happens to Isaac, and you don't quite understand why it's Isaac that lights the fire, right? There's something. Yes, it's ambiguous, her ending. And if it just been her not her fate not being ambiguous, I would have liked that. But it's the fact that there's unanswered questions there, which means it doesn't feel like it's the end. There can be things that are ambiguous, but there is like, why did the sun set off the fire? That's the question. Why did he do it? And that's the thing I think that bugs me the most, is why did he do it? He disappears. I know he doesn't die in the fire, right? He disappears. He goes into a different thing. But why did he do it?
But hang on a second. So this is the twist. This might be the twist, yeah? If he's managed to jump into the previous loop, which he's managed to do, yes, that fire that he set also happened in the previous loop. Yes. So he may have jumped into that house and still burnt to death.
Yes, I know. I got that bit that he could have jumped that. Yeah.
You can have. I can live with an ambiguous ending, but
I think it depends on how you feel about ambiguous endings. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. Here, I didn't mind. I could live with her ambiguous ending, although I would prefer it to be a bit less ambiguous. But the sun bit was too ambiguous for me. That's the bit, and the fact that Ravi didn't really get an ending. The fact that we've left it very much open for a return, and I'll welcome a return. Do not get me wrong. I will welcome another season of Capaldi chewing up the fucking scene, because he was truly magnificent in this. There needs to be another season.
That's fine. It can leave you wanting more. It's like a sign of a good show. Is it you want more? There's nothing wrong with wanting more.
I'm not going to sit here and say this was bad, because it was genuinely good. I do not like if this is the ending, it will bother me, right? I need another season. You can have it ambiguous. You can have Capaldi's character never getting the ending, that he carries on looping. I will live with that, right? But there are characters there that I invested a lot of time in that didn't yet get any kind of ending, right? And there's no ending. Lucy's character, yeah, okay, you got the twist, but you didn't get an ending. You got the twist, and the twist explains a lot. But again, Capaldi, I don't think Capaldi wanted to harm her. I just think he wanted her out the way, right? But not to harm her. And I think it's implied at the end that she comes to harm, and I think that would bother Gideon. So, I can see the second season starting off with her in the house and Gideon somehow saving her.
Hold on a second. So, if we saw her as the police detective or the DI or whatever, yeah, in that loop towards the end, did he change it so she still became a police officer and she didn't get harmed?
Well, maybe, right? But I need to.
That's what I liked about it.
Okay, I'll give you that. And if it is that, then fine, right? But it's too ambiguous, right?
I know it's
too.
It's designed for you to go, I want a second season.
Yeah,
that is what it is for. I'm not bothered by that.
And actually, when we sit here and I verbalize that, that's exactly what it's designed for. But we fucking need that, right? Look, she is a brilliant actress. She is a fantastic actress, and she always has been. And I liked her. And the one thing about casting her in Line of Duty and then fucking throwing her out the window in the first episode, that was genius. But she was brilliant in this. Look, it was brilliantly cast. It was brilliantly acted. It was brilliantly written. Capaldi is fucking amazing in this. And I'm not going to sit here and say I hated it. I didn't. I thought it was fucking brilliant. And it is some of the best written TV I've seen in a very fucking long time. And I keep coming back to it. That scene where they are fucking in that Scottish geezer's gone in there with his goddamn crowbar. Fuck me. That was so damn good.
It was,
and I laughed.
It was the tension, because you knew he was going to die. Because I think there was indicators that he was going to die, and because always do these flashes in the episodes, yeah, where it like flashes forward or flashes back, and you can't tell if it's a forward or a backwards flash, but it gives you something massively ambiguous to deal with, yeah. So, for example, like the rabbit, yeah, you saw the rabbit in episodes beforehand, but you didn't understand until you saw the one where he abducted the kid and sent her to live with Everland in the forest, whoever Everland is and wherever this place is in the forest. Yeah, so those bits need to be answered. So, the guy who wrote it is clearly talented. He knows what he's doing. I hope it gets a second season. It felt really BBC.
You know who this was produced by, right?
Sue Virtue, who's Stephen Moffat's wife.
It was also produced by Moffat. He's got a credit in there at the credits.
Oh, has he?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Stephen Moffat has definitely got a credit on this. So, yeah.
It was. I bet you he got the credit for the following. Could you ask Peter Capaldi to play Gideon? That was it, because you like Peter Capaldi likes you. All right.
Even if that was his contribution, it was a bloody good one. Look, it's annoying because this is the best thing Amazon's done in ages. I had to download it as my bloody thing to Amazon, so you have to go back and watch it again to give it reviews, right? In fact, everybody out there, if you haven't cancelled your Amazon Prime, watch this, then cancel your Amazon Prime. Cancel your Amazon Prime, but not before you watch this, because this does deserve a second season, and it bloody well better get one. Because they cancelled that thing with they cancelled that sort of space travel thing, which really annoyed me. Because that needed a second
cancelled Truth Seekers with Nick Frost, which I really liked.
Yeah, I know. And that annoyed me as well. Yeah. Fuck you, Amazon Prime. This should have been on Netflix, and I don't like Netflix that much, but it was better on Netflix. It would have been better on Netflix because it felt
BBC-ish. It felt like it should have been on the BBC. It felt BBC 2010, 2012 sort of BBC TV program. God, it was really good back then for TV. Fucking hell, that was good. That's a good era of TV. That was 2012. Anyway.
Oh well, yeah. Anyway, Gareth, your assignments this week is you have to watch Andor and you have to watch Jedi Tales. I want your opinion.
I will watch. I will definitely watch Andor. I was supposed to have watched House of the Dragon, but the Devil's Hour was too good.
House of the Dragon final. Holy shit. Yeah,
I've heard lots of people.
Shit.
Yes.
Holy shit!
I've heard people I've had lots of people turn around and say this is much better than Game of Thrones ever was.
It's setting up a second season that is going to be. That they better not fuck it up, because this second series could be amazing. And holy shit, that last 2 minutes of that episode were like, holy shit. You know, the way it happened, the way it was done, it was an accident, but it was foolhardy. Dude, that final few minutes and sure, fuck me. If they do this right, it's going to be good. It's going to be fucking good.
Okay. So, all right. Well, I'm hoping they'll do it right. So,
yeah.
Oh, good.
Matt Smith was brilliant in the final episode as well. I keep saying it, fucking brilliant, genius casting. But I hope that my notion that they're secretly bringing them back for the 60th in a way that would be great. I think Capaldi's lying. I think he's lying. I genuinely think Capaldi is lying. Okay. I think they were kept away from this episode on purpose. Look at the doctors we got, right? Look at the companions we got. We got all the old series companions. We didn't get Clara. We didn't get Rose. We didn't get Amy. We didn't get Martha, right? We got all the old... Fuck me, we got a companion from the original 1960s First Doctor, who's like 90 odd in that episode. But good on him for being there. We got the B team, if you like. We got none of the sort of series 2, you know, the reincarnation of Doctor Who. We got none of that. That was on purpose. It felt on purpose. So I think we're getting it in the 60th. And I just thought, come on, we need a little bit of Capaldi, just a little bit. You know, just give us a little morsel. I think he's lying.
Oh, he was in the 50th, wasn't he? There's a set of eyebrows and a hand.
I genuinely think he's lying. I watched the interview with him, and there's a twinkle in his eye. You're thinking, you're lying. You're lying. And good for you. Make it a surprise. But yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and on
that note, go.
By the way, just one thing. Janeway is going to be in Picard. I fucking called that. And it's happening. She's hinted at it.
No. You didn't call Janeway.
Well, I called Janeway, but I also called Cisco.
Cisco
I'm
is
probably
the
going to
one.
wear you a t-shirt. I'm probably going to wear you a t-shirt. But it will be the most glorious I called it if he does turn up. It will be. It's worth it for that 1% chance that I am right, because that will be glorious. And I won't rub it into you. I'll just sit here and go, fucking called it. That'll be a video. You can we'll release a video on the channel that day and I'll just be fucking called it. That's it. Deadpan.
Okay. Well, you can do YouTube short for that. All right.
Fucking called it.
I knew I was right to put the Devil's Hour towards the end. Let's calm down a bit. We would have just been arguing with each other otherwise. And on that note, I think it's time we all say goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye.